a simple format that's easy to follow, and that gets you to answer the questions that are key, and that help you to identify, am I onto something or do I have significant holes? Okay, so, and those that have worked with me know that I'm passionate about the business model canvas. I use it all the time. School, we redid the one for the Oasis just 3 or 4 days ago. We're saying, okay, where are we at now? And as we're looking ahead to 2026, where we at and is what we wrote 5 years ago still relevant, still pertinent, and we went all the way through the 9 key blocks. My value proposition, my customer segments, my customer channels, my customer relationships, our income streams, our key partners, our key activities, our key resources, our cost structure. Those are your nine key things. If any one of those blocks you can't answer the key questions about that block, pause and spend time on it. So you asked for 3, I'm saying that's the one which is key, but actually that one has got 9. And each of those are key. You've got to know, well, what am I doing every day? What am I doing every month? Okay, so let's say you're a hip hop artist. So you know what you can do. You can write, you can perform. What else? And out of that, what are the income streams going to be? And have you given that enough thought? Do you need to sit alongside someone who's going to walk you through that model? Someone who's going to ask you the difficult questions and help you to answer them and help you to think stuff through. So I would say if, for all of us, if we get that one thing right, we are already 3 steps ahead of where we would ordinarily be. Again, we're not leaving anything to chance. And then, out of that, then comes the other things that you can structure. I'm trying to think what processes I normally follow. So, I do a business model canvas for absolutely anything. If I've got whether it's a business idea or just a project, which is something I just want to do. Maybe coming out of that, I'll then determine what my next steps are. Maybe kind of how am I going to structure my brand? How am I going to now? You see, I think that answering those key questions helps you to clarify your corporate identity before you're designing anything. Kind of, this is who I am. This is what I'm offering to the world. And then after that, you now need to be able to articulate it. What's it going to look like? Will I have a logo? Will I have a website? How do I now articulate what I'm offering? And then once I've clarified and articulated it, it's time to communicate it. How do I now get out there and start telling the story and start delivering this value to the segment? Thank you.
Okay, so from what he has said, unfortunately I learned this like late into the game. So I missed out on a lot of it. But though it's like I don't know how to phrase this, but it's like a chicken and egg situation. Sometimes I'll speak from a hip hop perspective because most of what I do is from a hip hop, right? So you're an artist, right? You get into the studio, the beats is there, they're making the track, you are vibing, the lyrics come, you're doing your track and stuff, right? That track is going to be the product, right? It's going to be the actual thing that people are going to listen to. With what he is saying, before you do that track, do you know who you're going to sell what you are going to make in the studio to? Because if you are talking about money, then you need to think what is going to be money and and why? Like, what are the chances that this stuff is going to be bought? That's what he's saying. So it's like a lot of people end up fighting, saying, no, now my creativity is being taken, I'm not being told what to rap about because this is what's selling, this is what the record labels want. But at the end of the day, record labels are there to make money, right? Whether you are going to be a mainstream artist or a conscious artist or whatnot, all of these 9 things that he is talking about, if you are going to be in business, they definitely speak to that. It doesn't matter, like the whole stuff, like everything that he's talking about, you will know. Like the problem is we now have the song, we now have the music, and then now we want to go to Facebook, and now we want to try to sell it. Now I want to go online, now I want to go to Spotify, but we haven't done the research to say, do people want to hear another crying song? Do people want to hear another, whatever, shake you, whatever song? Have you done the market for it? Are you the right person to even talk about that, for instance, Is that who you are? So that's what those 9 key men, I don't know how I can say that. If you can, those nine age.
So just to add on to that, I think maybe just to add a couple of layers that I think are becoming more and more relevant in the world we're in today, is I ask a lot of questions in my head. And one of the questions that I hope some of you are asking is how do I know that whether people want to listen to it or not, right? Because, and I've realized that we've got this powerful tool that's been there for years, but not too many of us leverage it. And that's the power of questions, right? And one of the things we can do, that I've started thinking about, and then started doing with some ventures we're exploring is, with social media, you've got acquaintances, right, on Facebook and all these things, is to do what you can call, depending on how big or how invested you want to be in the project. You can do like a 150% test or a 30% test, depending on the price that you want to charge for what you charge for. And the 150% test is simply before I've spent any amount of money, maybe I've done my business model canvas, and I've got an idea of what I want to do. I'm clear then. Now that I'm clear, I'm just writing a message and saying, hey SK, how's it going, man? I'm thinking about doing this particular thing. Would you be interested in joining the waiting list if it's a book? Or would you be interested in finding out when, I'm thinking of doing a show. Would you be interested in finding out more close to the date, right? And I think the number of people who respond to your DMs is a good sign. So if you do a 150% test, that's probably when you know that what you're doing is probably it's low ticket, right? Low ticket. So you probably need more people in the room so that it makes sense. But imagine if you woke up every day, and send 100 people a message on LinkedIn, what is Instagram, all those platforms, 100 different people. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Tell me what you think about it. 100 people every day. And by the time you've spent a month doing that, if you've got like 120 people who are saying, because you're going to be shocked when you ask these questions. And some people are like, dude, we've been waiting for this for a while. And now you've got the energy to go and do it because you almost have a pre-sale, right? Because the person who responds, you can go a bit deeper. Oh yeah, man. Oh, you'd be interested in getting what I'm thinking of. I've got different prices I'm thinking about. Because now you can ask people a lot of things. I've got this price, that price. What price do you think would you be willing to pay for if I told you I'm releasing a course on how to write a song, or I'm releasing a course on how to do a podcast? What is the price point you'd be comfortable paying? And the more we're asking is, you've produced nothing, you've developed nothing, you've spent nothing. But can you imagine how empowered you would be knowing that I'm creating something for which there are 100 people who are already waiting and willing? They will put, set aside and say, I will pay you $100. So you're starting from a point of, I think the wording is you can start a waiting list by just engaging people. And it's fairly free, just need a bit of data. That's the one aspect. And I think the other thing that we need to get into the habit of is not starting businesses alone. I don't know how many of us have started businesses alone. That stuff is lonely and stressful, right? And you find that the data shows 2 to 3% teams tend to have a higher success rate than the one-man team. So one of the things that we want to do is start figuring out if you want to start something. Ask yourself, like when you do the model, who would be a great person to have alongside? And you just started to say, well, dude, I'm thinking about this. I really need your help in this particular area because I may not be strong in it. If it works, we're building something together. And so I think building that small team, I think you start with a two-man team, you're scouting, you could be the talent, the other person is doing the other stuff and figuring out what's there. And as you guys begin to get more momentum, you can begin to build more people into a team. That's going to work. And then I think when you've got something, that you've got the model canvas, you've got the assessment going on, you've built a small little team that can actually bring a minimum viable product to the market, that's when I think you should start talking about how do we register a company. Because sometimes it's quick to register a company, right? And the downside of registering a company too quick before you've had some miles, because sometimes you want to test the partnership. Right? So before there's anything on paper in terms of the company registered and shareholding given, I need to know that Nabo is someone who I can rely on. If he's the guy who's doing the posts on social media and I'm coming up with content, is he doing his end of the bargain? And after we test each other, it's like like dating before the marriage. When you feel like, oh, this one is the one, we can set up the company and we can start doing shareholding, because now you build that bond where you know that we can go together. But I think the key thing is build a clear concept, find out who wants what you've got to give, and then build a team after you discover that people actually want what you've got to give. And when the team's set up, you've got a minimum viable set up.
Thank you so much.
Just to put into context what he's saying, GrapeVine Clothing, I started it with people that were already contributing to me making the t-shirts anyway. Like they're the guys that are already there and selling and making all that stuff. The website that I started, it was a guy who was already learning how to do, he was a computer science student. And then he came up and said, listen, I'm learning how to do computer, I can, come up, Java, HTML, whatever I can. We just need content. I need some way to play around, you know what I mean? So all these things, it's actually, it's very practical when you can get just a few people going.
Thank you so much for that. So the next question is for Nabot. Can you briefly explain what your business model looks like and how do you make money from your creativity?
That's a good one. But now the problem, where do I start? Because I've got so many things going on. Yeah, high end. Okay, so my registered company is GrapeVine Clothing. That's the one that's been running for more than 20 years now. Yeah. So how that happens is pretty much we started off as just a one-man t-shirt, and then we started getting more people wanting to wear what I was wearing. And people would ask me, I like the t-shirt. Yeah, we make these. And then I found a tailor downtown, and then we started making those. And then what happened was the guys that I was with, that were helping me move this stuff, we then decided to formalize and create a company. So the other guy is in South Africa. His name is Composition. So our business model has always been to find, because he's a producer, by the way, our background is hip-hop. So he's a producer, and I'm a freelance multimedia person who's just all over the place. He wanted to be the behind-the-scenes person, right? Pretty much like what you say, make sure you've got the right sort of people in and know what your goals are, right? And then I was the face of the stuff and I make most of the decisions, right? But the advantage was with what he was doing, there was more money coming in to inject into what we wanted to do. So the idea was to build hip-hop platforms that were never there when we started. Hopefully, initially when we started it was all just a hope thing, like hopefully, I'm being honest here, hopefully it will carry itself in such a way that it can continue growing, right? But he actually went to school, he had a degree, and he was banking somewhere, and stuff. And I also went to study electronics and stuff. So now the business now is not like you've got your t-shirts that you're doing. When you formalize, then how then do you keep this going? So now I got into, we went to the NGOs, and then we started saying, listen, the t-shirts that you guys are making, they're not as hip and youthful, and we are creatives. I mean, look at what I'm wearing and stuff. Can I bring you a sample and show you what I can do that the youth would wear and not wear when they're going to sleep? So I kind of bought into that whole hip lifestyle. We came up with some samples, and then we started, obviously creating the stuff. So that was now like the cash cow. So from that cash cow, we then decided to pay, to buy like a PA system, buy the cameras, so that you can start creating now the content for the website, the content for the TV shows, and the content for the actual shows. So those that have followed me will see we had Hip Hop 260, which was a TV show with the cameras, so it was easy for us to make that happen. We had the floor sessions, which is similar to what's now there with the Hip Hop Power sessions, where artists come, open mic platform and stuff. We had the PA system, and the business behind that was, even if artists don't come or they come, and I'm not making money by the door, I was hiring out that system to K2 Cairo. So K2 Cairo was giving me a check every week for the sound system that they were using. Not many people knew that. So I wasn't really worried whether people would pay $1 or not, because I knew at the end of the day that week connecting from there. You get what I mean? So the whole thing was like, how then do you carry on being sustainable but finding pockets of money that can keep this dream that you have alive? So that even it was just a hope that it's going to blow up. I'm not I wasn't like a business person to say, I've got this 9, that's what I'm saying, if I had known these 9 things and put them into place, it would have been different. But that's how we were rolling. Like, we'll see all these opportunities and then we'll get into them and then try and monetize from there. And it was just try to piggyback off whichever is working. You know what I mean? So that's the unfortunate place that we're at, that we didn't have enough people to actually teach us.